Hi, I'm Dave, the Rogue Special Agent. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the asteroid Apophis and why the government won't tell you about it. Near-Earth asteroid 99942, otherwise known as Apophis, presents a significant threat to the Earth in the next few years. On Friday, the 13th of April, 2029, in the late evening, Apophis will pass from east to west over the northern United States. The government first acknowledged it in 2004, but it has been passing by Earth every 7 years, each time getting closer. I found out about it in 1997, and the government was only able to keep the secret until 2004. Apophis was known to the ancient Egyptians as the demon serpent god of chaos. In 1998 and 1999, the movies Deep Impact and Armageddon came out. The CIA has some deep contacts within Hollywood. This is how I believe those movies came to be. Apophis is roughly 1,100 feet in length, which is nearly 3 city blocks long. It's composed mostly of nickel and iron, which means it's just not going to break up in the atmosphere. If it hits anywhere on Earth, it would be catastrophic. So for comparison, the meteor crater in Arizona, which measures about 3/4 of a mile wide, was created by an asteroid 160 feet in length. So if you do the math, Apophis has the potential to make a crater on Earth 5.1 miles in diameter. Another comparison can be drawn by the 1908 Tunguska event. This event occurred in Siberia, and the asteroid was 1/4 the size of Apophis. That is, if you do not believe this was one of Nikola Tesla's experiments gone horribly wrong. So the difference with the Tunguska event was that it was a rocky asteroid, not an asteroid made of iron and nickel like Apophis. And also, it exploded 3 to 6 miles in the atmosphere instead of striking the Earth. This is something that Apophis is not going to do since it is made of dense metals. The airburst over Tunguska was about 4 or 5 megatons. It could have taken out a large city. Instead, it took out 835 square miles of the Siberian wilderness. An ocean strike by Apophis would cause a tsunami racing across the ocean at 600 miles an hour with a wave that could reach up to a half-mile high. Since the Earth is covered by 75% water, we would have about that same chance of an ocean strike. Anything on the coast, as well as anything several miles inland, would be destroyed. A land strike could throw enough debris into the atmosphere to cause a nuclear winter lasting anywhere from 3 to 10 years. It would violently eject material called ejecta into the atmosphere and into space, causing fire and brimstone to rain down on Earth, just like the asteroid strike in 3123 BC that scientists now believe took out Sodom and Gomorrah. Everything, everywhere would be on fire. Imagine what would happen to the world if we could not grow crops for even 1 or 2 years. This would cause at least part of our food chain to collapse. An asteroid strike of this size has the potential to take out at least 2 billion people worldwide. If our coastal cities and ports were destroyed, we would not have the infrastructure to import goods. It could cause our global economy and supply chain to completely and totally collapse. Over the past 50 or 60 years, 90% or more of the population is no longer self-sufficient whatsoever. We have to go to Walmart or Meijer for almost everything. We no longer hunt, catch our food, or grow it for that matter. That and about 98% of people out there could not start a primitive fire if their lives depended on it. If the trucks ever stop rolling to Walmart and Meijer, tens of millions of people in the United States may not make it. Also, if Apophis strikes anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, it could cause a massive earthquake, which could trigger the supervolcano underneath Yellowstone National Park to go with it. While it would be a very bad day for all of humanity, it would not necessarily mean the end of us. 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano in Indonesia, Mount Toba, exploded, wiping out all but a few thousand humans alive on the Earth at that time. We know this because scientists traced DNA back to a bottleneck around 74,000 years ago, and this is when Mount Toba erupted. So while one or the other of these disasters happening by themselves would not necessarily mean the end of humanity, it is possible that one disaster compounding the other might lead to an extinction level event. If this did happen, small pockets of humans in bunkers and in very remote locations may still be able to survive. But I think my bet might be on Darren Kuyu in Turkey. It is said that the United States government, as well as the wealthy elite, are building bunkers in Australia and in New Zealand in the southern hemisphere because Apophis is projected to strike the northern hemisphere. So NASA and the government tell us that Apophis is going to pass approximately 17,000 miles from the Earth. To put that in perspective, the moon orbits the Earth at approximately 239,000 miles, give or take a few thousand miles. Apophis will pass so closely to Earth, it will pass below our communications satellites. In fact, Apophis will be so close that it will be visible to the naked eye to those in North America on the evening of Friday the 13th of April, 2029. So it really seems to me, in these calculations made 20 years ago, they could not have possibly been able to predict a margin of error as small as 17,000 miles. So there is something called the Yarkovsky effect, which was not known at the time of the original calculations, where scientists now believe it could cause Apophis to strike the Earth. Here is a brief explanation of the Yarkovsky effect.
The light side faces the sun and is warmer than the dark side. But the thing also turns, so the sides constantly change direction and temperature. This change could be detrimental because it slightly pushes Apophis toward Earth. Unfortunately, nobody knows how the Yarkovsky effect will influence the asteroid's path.
There are just too many variables involved, such as gravity fluctuation. Let's not even talk about any other unknown we have not considered or don't know about yet. So in the end, the government nor NASA can tell us with any degree of certainty whatsoever whether Apophis is going to hit us or not. So here's a video circa early 2000s regarding Apophis striking Earth before the government clamped down on all of the information. Listen carefully.
But occasionally, astronomers get lucky. In 2004, they pick up a moving object in the sky. Closer inspection reveals it's an asteroid, and it's 900 foot across. Researchers name it Apophis, after the Egyptian god of evil and destruction. It is big enough to destroy an area almost the size of Texas, and it is coming our way. In 2004, at the Kitt Peak Observatory, Arizona, scientists spot a new and relatively small asteroid. It looks like it is on a collision course with Earth. It is called Apophis, and it's 900 feet across. Around 10 times the size of the asteroid that created Meteor Crater in Arizona. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Richard Binzel tracks its trajectory.
An impact the size of Apophis, in terms of the immediate damage, would be regional, roughly the size of France. violent in terms of its immediate catastrophic effects.
Based on initial observations, researchers believe it has a relatively high chance of hitting Earth in 2029. The asteroid poses a real threat. Binzel needs to discover what Apophis is made of. He studies the asteroid via a remote link to a telescope in the Mauna Kea Observatory, Hawaii. No two asteroids are the same. Most are solid, but some are loose piles of rubble. The majority are made of rock, but some are composed of metals and other materials.
The mass of Apophis is about 20 million tons. The energy that it would have if it hit the Earth is about 375 megatons, the kind of energy we usually talk about with nuclear arsenals, and that's more than 20,000 times the energy of the blast at Hiroshima.
So if Apophis strikes land, it would cause an explosion 20,000 times the size of the explosion of the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and take out a landmass the size of Texas on April 29th, 2029. So if this is the projected trajectory of Apophis, let's project the area of destruction over the Pacific Northwest. As you can see, the destruction would be massive. So why has NASA abandoned all of their other missions and priorities in favor of studying, landing on, and redirecting asteroids? It could be because Apophis was discovered way before 2004. First came NASA's Near Shoemaker mission, which was launched in 1996 and allegedly was sent to dock with the asteroid Eros. And I say allegedly because NASA has a long history of not being truthful or transparent with the American public, probably to keep the money from the American taxpayers flowing. So the Near Shoemaker mission is pretty suspicious because it was launched in 1996 and it could have docked with Apophis when Apophis returned in 1997. Almost as if NASA could have launched the mission to Apophis instead of Eros. I believe this could have been NASA's first attempt to prevent Apophis from striking the Earth in 2029. Next, NASA launched their Deep Space 1 and Deep Space 2 missions in 1998 and 1999. The Deep Space probes employed a brand new technology, ion propulsion engines, which generate an increasing amount of propulsion over time. The American public was told that the Deep Space 2 probe was launched in 1999 on a mission to Mars, which ultimately was declared a failure. But what if this was really a secret mission to Apophis? This mission would have landed a probe with an ion engine onto Apophis in 2004 and have 25 years to gently push Apophis out of the way and out of its collision course with the Earth. If this theory is correct, then the American public would have never have known Apophis was going to strike the Earth. And I can tell you for certain, this is definitely how the government operates, because they believe the American public would not handle the truth very well. But that's not by any means the end of the story or the end of the conspiracy. In 2021, SpaceX launched a NASA mission, it's called the DART mission, to the asteroid Didymos in order to crash a probe into it in order to redirect the asteroid. The mission was a success, and NASA hailed it as the first successful planetary defense mission ever undertaken by humankind. And most recently was the OSIRIS-REx mission to the asteroid Bennu, where a sample from the asteroid Bennu was obtained and returned to Earth for study. Next, the OSIRIS-REx mission was renamed the OSIRIS Pathfinder mission, and OSIRIS was sent to Apophis and should arrive on April 3rd, 2029, 10 days before April 13th, 2029, when it is scheduled to encounter or collide with the Earth. So why is this mission named Osiris, the Egyptian god of the dead and rebirth? Is it because the real mission of Osiris is to carry a thermonuclear weapon to Apophis, to land on Apophis, and to detonate it 10 days before Apophis collides with the Earth? Is this NASA and the government's Hail Mary mission to save the Earth? Only then do the meanings of the names Apophis and Osiris become clear. But blowing up Apophis using nuclear weapons is a very bad plan. An EMP or electromagnetic pulse would fry the world's electric grid, and engineers have determined that it would take more than 20 years to replace about 40% of them. And this could result in the Earth losing about 4 billion of its population. I believe that NASA is leaving us clues in the names that they choose for the asteroids and their missions. Apophis is the god of chaos and destruction, and Osiris is the god of death and rebirth. I believe that this gives us the true picture of what is really happening. So if this isn't the case, then why has NASA dropped almost all of their other priorities in order to land on asteroids, to study them, to return samples from them, and redirect them from striking the Earth? So listen to this video about a 2025 NASA Apophis Pathfinder mission. They say they're going to study how to redirect an asteroid, but I believe they're actually doing this mission.
5. NASA is also going to launch the mission Apophis Pathfinder, and it will be the first spaceship to ever touch this asteroid. It will land approximately a year after its launch. Also, NASA has proposed sending a swarm of tiny craft into space to help humanity develop effective protective tactics against asteroid strikes.
So is this why Elon Musk wanted to put humans on Mars by 2029? Why would NASA and about every other spacefaring nation in the world go to all of these lengths and launch all of these missions if a credible and imminent threat to our civilization and humanity in general did not exist? So the real question is here, do you trust NASA and do you trust the government to tell you the truth about everything that's going on? I can tell you for certain, and working for the GOV, that the American public only finds out about 10% of things that actually happen. The other 90% is never known to the general public. So while working for the FedGov in 2004, it became very apparent to me that the government was very concerned, if not scared about something. You get bits and pieces of information, and sometimes you can put them all together and get a picture as to what might be going on. The government wants the American public to believe that they are in control of everything and have everything figured out, when in fact, they're just making it up as they go along. The government became obsessed with continuity of operations plans and even formed a shadow government to take the place of the government in case there would be a national emergency or disaster. It appears as though the government may have been building a large quantity of underground bunkers since 2004 in both the United States and in other countries, again, such as Australia and New Zealand. These bunkers are called Deep Underground Military Bases, or DUMBS. There's rumored to be about 126 underground bunkers in the United States, but no one knows for sure. There are those who also believe that some of these are located under the mountains in our national parks. What we do know is the government has bunkers at Cheyenne Mountain, Raven Rock, Mount Weather, and also the Greenbrier, which was retired in 1995. So I believe the Greenbrier was decommissioned in 1995 only because the government had a new and better doomsday bunker located under Denver International Airport. The Denver International Airport was opened in 1995 and has been the center of conspiracy and controversy ever since. First of all, the Denver International Airport is 23 miles away from Denver. The airport is placed just far away enough that if anything happened to Denver, the airport probably would still be okay. So DIA cost $9 billion in today's money, which was funded by the federal government. And as of 2024, they're putting another $4 billion into it. To put this in perspective, America's newest and most advanced aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, cost $13 billion. So the DIA conspiracy theories center around its underground tunnels that they claim are a baggage system that quite possibly lead to 5 underground bunkers, 5 underground large structures. These structures were allegedly buildings built in the wrong place that they decided to just cover up with dirt instead of demolishing them. In a recent interview, the Denver International Airport admits to using these underground buildings for storage. So how do they do this unless they have tunnels that lead to these underground structures? The next thing one needs to consider in the DIA bunker theory are its excessive number of runways. It's really like they can land a massive number of aircraft at one time, such as all of America's ruling class and all of the politicians and their private jets. That could be several hundred jets trying to land at DIA all at the same time. So in July of 2014, President Barack Obama was taken to Denver International Airport while Comet Elenin passed overhead. This was quite possibly a dry run to test their ability to evacuate the president to DIA. The government's continuity of operations plan is kind of like an emergency on an airplane. You put the mask on yourself first before helping anyone else. They say they need to be around to recompose the government, but what if there's nobody left to govern? So they build these bunkers with secret locations. Honestly, it really makes me wonder if they just intend to disappear. So I ask you, where was the government after Hurricane Katrina? Where was the government after the wildfires in Hawaii? You know what I mean. And where was the government after that big train derailment in Ohio? And the list goes on and on. I mean, when is the American public going to realize that the GOV is not going to come to your rescue? And I don't say any of this to cause alarm or panic, but rather to help people gain an understanding of how things really are. So what if the government is ignoring these smaller disasters, knowing something much larger is coming in 2029, and that losing a few thousand people here and there may be necessary to save more people later, knowing that they do not have the resources for both. Although, I guess my current belief right now is that Hawaii was a total land grab. So I guess from my perspective is that once you work for the GOV, you realize how unstable and fragile our entire civilization is, and they would never admit this to the public, ever. What the public does not know is that many agents are preppers, and it's for good reason. I even knew of an agent who transferred to Denver with the purpose of building his own shelter for himself and his family. So the last piece of the puzzle could be that the government has been stockpiling and hoarding massive amounts of supplies since about 2004 in government caves, vaults, and bunkers in such places as the St. Louis Underground and Subtropolis underneath Kansas City, as well as many other clandestine facilities all around the United States. These caves can accommodate semi-trucks and also have their own loading docks. These underground caves even have trains and railways to facilitate the movement of goods and supplies where they are needed. If you remember the show Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, he had an episode where he drove around in the underground government storage caves in Missouri. Check out this episode if you can find it, but someone wanted them all taken off the air. So can you trust the government, and what does this all mean when you add it all up? All of this might mean absolutely nothing, or this could be the biggest conspiracy about the biggest event that has happened in the past 500 years, and one that is going to change our civilization forever. I do not and cannot endorse any course of action, so please do your own research and come to your own conclusions and make decisions that are going to be best for you. So, we all have until Friday, April 13th, 2029. I guess we'll find out on that day whether or not the government's plan to save humanity worked out or not. And on April 14th, 2029, the public will never know that any of this ever happened. So that's all for now. Like, follow, subscribe. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube at The Rogue Special Agent.